Check. Mic's on? Oh, there we go. Nice.
How do we see the notes?
This is great. This room is huge. I'm just excited that there's like even this many people here. We're so lucky to have you. Thank you. All right.
Let's see the notes first. 1 second. Oh, there we go.
You just
Yeah. Great. Welcome. I'm going to start off with a joke.
Oh no.
Oh no, it's good.
We didn't plan. We didn't
It's okay.
discuss this.
It's a number joke. What did the 0 say to the 8? Nice belt.
It can only go up.
It's a data joke.
So, hi everybody, thank you for coming. I am Molly. I'm gonna let Ashley introduce herself first, but we are so excited to get to share with you what our experience has allowed us to understand about being productive and around education with Tableau.
I'm Ashley Oman, and Molly and I both work in professional services here at Tableau. And I started off as a customer 6 years ago in Atlanta and had the pleasure of installing and standing up the second Tableau server on the East Coast. But since then, my husband and I have moved to Idaho. We live up near Canada, and we have a little farm. It's a lot of fun, and I really love talking with you about how you can succeed with Tableau and totally change your organization.
And I'm Molly Muncy. This picture is from when I had about 1.5 feet longer hair. It's kind of interesting because this is the first conference I've had shorter hair. Okay, maybe it's not interesting, but I used to teach a lot, and so when I would come to these conferences, it was so much fun because I get to see all my former students, and I was doing it for so long, either at conference or in classrooms, and now I'm feeling that I'm not getting recognized anymore. But if I've taught any of you, I hope that now that maybe that connects. But I'm a longtime Excel user, but and I still do love that kind of world. But Tableau is now, for me, it opened up so many opportunities, and I'm just whenever I get excited about something, whenever I learn something, I want to share it with other people immediately. And Tableau offered me that opportunity to do that, and that's what we're going to be doing here today too, is help to share some of our collective experience and hope that that helps you as you think about also turning around and educating within your organization.
And Molly and I both are real evangelists of our products. Each of us wrote a book last year. She wrote Tableau for Dummies, which is really good, lots of pictures. And I wrote Telling Data Stories with Tableau Public. So if you feel so inclined to do some formal reading, our books are the best.
With a little asterisk that says, yeah. Not supported. There you go.
So today we're going to talk about productivity and what it is. Everyone's always talking about productivity, but let's talk about what it means for analytics and what it means for your organization and how you do 4 things. First, your success strategy, super important. Second, education. Third, evangelism. And 4th, value. We'll bring everything full circle today, and we'll start off with a fun story. Does anyone here have kids? Yeah. Anyone recognize this guy? Yeah, it has nothing to do with data analytics, except this. So in the whole first Toy Story movie, we didn't see Squeaky. Why? Or Wheezy, sorry, not Squeaky, Wheezy. Wheezy was sitting on a shelf covered in dust. He was sitting there because the mom in the story didn't know how to fix him. Like his squeaker, his penguin squeaker beak thing was just a little bit broken. But I guess the mom didn't Google it, like how do I fix a toy penguin? So he just sat on the shelf the entire movie. And we do not want that to happen to your Tableau licenses, and neither do you.
Yeah, there it is.
Shelfware. Wheezy was shelfware. We don't want that to happen to you and your licenses. So, let's talk a little bit about technology, skills, and success. Probably everyone here is a Tableau customer, or you're thinking of becoming one. Am I right? Yeah, a lot of heads nodding. Absolutely. Your problem is not actually technology. The problem, the barrier to success is skills. So you are here because your organization wants to invest in its future. And its future is your skills. And when we think of skills, usually we think of hard skills like typing. That's my only athletic talent. I'm a really fast typer. It's a skill, right? My husband edits videos. That's a skill. But the way that you think about your organizational culture of analytics and the questions that you ask and the methodologies that you use to build and execute on your strategies and programs are also skills. And the skills that you're going to learn here will make you much more successful. So let's start off at the very top. Productivity. Anyone here go to the gym? I used to. So arm halfway up. Yeah. Or anyone have like a Fitbit? Nora does. Yes. Do you feel more productive from these things? I used to use my gym activities just to eat more cheese and drink more wine. So it's good that I don't go to the gym anymore because I don't eat any cheese or drink wine anymore, sort of. So that's good. More productive. Really. But let's talk about productivity with analytics. Productivity with analytics is creating value for your organization. And there are several factors of it that are key. So we'll start off with success. And we'll talk about strategy. So what is success with analytics? What was it 20 years ago? I'll tell you, my first BI job, the criteria that determined whether or not I was qualified was whether or not I could create a pivot chart. I could. It's really not very hard. But I was like, great, success. I created a pivot table. So it's very different now, though. Success with analytics is about being able to have a conversation about your business or an event, and then take action and measure the results. Success also is when everyone in your organization is speaking about analytics using the same language. Who here calls a dashboard a dashboard? This is a really easy one. Please raise your hand. Who here calls it a report? Please put your hand down.
Oh.
Organizational fluency around data is really critical. And when everyone in your organization uses the same language and forms narratives the same way, you're probably successful. But in order to be successful, you have to have the right people, all of you, and the right processes, all the things other people do, and the right platforms. And you have to have the right strategy. So let's start with strategy. And since we're in Texas, I thought this was a really appropriate word, because we have a very famous president from Texas who made this word a legend, really. Strategery needs no introduction, am I right? And on election day, again, full circle, it's great. Who here knows what their analytics strategy is?
Oh,
I
yeah.
saw a hand in the back.
Nice.
One in the middle. Anyone else? Exactly. So a strategy is something that you likely encounter every day. I don't know much about football, but I do know that the strategy of the offensive line of a football team is based on whether or not the quarterback is good at throwing the ball or running the ball. So if you want to create a really successful strategy, you don't necessarily have to spend a lot of time thinking about it. You have to start off with where you are right now, though, and what you're good at. Knowing what your strengths are and what they aren't will help you create an excellent strategy for anything. Like, I know I'm not good at sports, so I don't play them. I just type. It's a good strategy for me. I type a lot. Wrote a book, right? Good. Got a good strategy there. But if you want to have a good strategy for your organization, you need a couple more things. And one of those is a vision. Now, when you're using Excel or Cognos or BW, do you think to yourself, in a year, I'm going to have 20 more analytics just like this, and we're going to use them to make all the decisions in our organization? Do you think that? Probably not. When you are using Tableau and you are creating an awesome P&L statement, do you ever think to yourself, it would be so great if marketing were using something similar, or what if our operations group were using this for headcount analysis? You think of the question, oh, there are other things we could do with this. That's how you start forming a vision. And the vision is a key part of your strategy, because between, as Molly's going to tell you, between the current state and the things you are good at and the job you know you have to do and your vision, there are several more components that are critical. And if you execute upon them successfully, you'll be very productive with analytics. And here's a great quote, Sun Tzu. I like Googling him because I get back all these great images of like deep thought, philosophy. It's very inspiring. But this is a really good one. Strategy without tactics is the slowest route to victory. But tactics without strategy is the noise before defeat.
And it brings us into what I think a lot of times our strategy starts to look like. We know where we're at. Hopefully, I mean, that certainly is the first step that Ashley mentioned. We want to make sure that you have an understanding about where are we today. And then we know maybe where we want to be. Or we can define that. We can have ideas. We can bring people together and brainstorm that. But then this middle piece, the road to get there, how does that work? And I'm reminded of a very silly quote from a cartoon of step one, something, step two, question mark. But it's step one, underpants, step two, question mark, step three, process, or profit. Profit. See, she knows better than me now. But so this is a theme that we are challenged with. And so what we're trying to do is think about, where are we? And then making sure that we are going through those tactics to get us there. So let's define the question mark. And this is something that Ashley and I have worked on together. It's not something that is like a sanctioned hard and fast rule, but it's more just to facilitate this conversation for us here today. We thought about what this question mark could be, and it's really that execution strategy of being able to take us from current to future state. And we found that it's made up these three different components. So we have value, evangelism, and enablement. We're going to be drilling into each of these, but just to give a quick description of what these include, when we talk about evangelism, we're talking about the narratives within the organization, the collaboration that is allowed and encouraged, as well as the stewardship, so the stewards that are created. Value, I mean, we're thinking about the standards that we're holding our collective organization accountable for. The usefulness, absolutely, usefulness and relevance of what we're doing. But that accountability, again, is going to be very key there. We are going to start talking about enablement because for us, education and enablement is paramount. So even though it's in the lower right-hand corner of this, if we're thinking that it's kind of a baseline. If you don't have an enablement strategy, if that spoke of the wheel breaks, your drive on the road to success is not going to be a good one. It's going to be bumpy, and we want to make sure that that doesn't happen. So let's talk about enablement. In this case, enablers are welcome. And we love those who want to focus on empowering others. So when we think about enablement, it really is about the other. It's not about taking what I know that I'm so excited about and just hoping other people jump on it. I need to make sure that I'm thinking, how can I enable, how can I focus on that other person and empower them to get to where I'm at, where I'm excited. And then also when you focus on the other, it allows you to critically think about what you have done and to better your own skill set. So we're going to have that as a theme where we're looking at enablement as a really focused and dedicated amount of time that we're putting for others, where we can also invite those other folks in our organization to come join us and dedicate their time as well. So this is a quote, Benjamin Franklin, that guy who was flying a kite in the rain, may or may not have said it, but I really like the quote. He tell me and I forget, teach me, I remember. This may be familiar to you. The original version of the quote is popularly documented to actually a Confucian philosopher. And I like it a little bit better. So it's not having heard something is not as good as having heard it. Having heard it is not as good as having seen it. Having seen it is not as good as knowing it. And knowing it is not as good as putting it into practice. So there's these levels, right? And so the theme, is maybe more succinct in this falsely attributed quote for Ben Franklin, but the message is there. So when we think about education, we need to think about that whole process. Are we just telling people and hoping that they get it? Are we showing them something? And I can't tell you how many times I show someone something I'm so excited about in Tableau that I've built, and I don't take the time to actually articulate enough throughout that process. And they may be excited, but they're not necessarily going to know how to actually implement that and replicate it. So enablement is very important to Tableau. As you can see from this conference, we have so many opportunities to get your hands on the product. We believe in education. We give our education away for free as much as we possibly can. With our videos on the website, with all of the things that we try to do in our community, our knowledge base, we are really focused on that. So there's a lot of people I talk to, maybe not at conference. We tend to be a different breed here where people are really excited and want to learn this. But there's a lot of people I talk to that are confused as to why there needs to be so much education and why do I need a full enablement strategy for Tableau, because my sales rep told me it was really easy to use and I was able to download it and I could do so much stuff so quickly. So why am I thinking so hard about an enablement strategy? I think maybe in this room, if you're at this session, you probably have encountered those folks and you may not be one, but I have felt that about other things where I feel like it was so easy. Why would I need to dedicate any time? My iPhone is really easy. Well, I don't have an iPhone, but I hear they're very easy to use. They're not actually that easy for me. My phone's easy to use. But the iPhone is all about simplicity and ease of use, so you don't necessarily need to go and get trained on it. But also as a person who might be more inclined to an Apple product and understand how it works, they're going to find that easier. I happen to know several people, and again, I just outed myself, that I don't find them easy to use, and I would probably need to have someone sit down with me and take me through it in order for me to be successful. In fact, the reason why I don't have an iPhone is because I got frustrated trying to use my friends and just said, nope, not for me. So if I'd had some sort of thought around that, even something as simple, or that's supposed to be perceived as simple, without a strategy or without a plan, is going to fall apart. So let's drill into this enablement strategy. We kind of drilled down a little bit into what we think is important here, and as I mentioned, education is really the crux of this, the focus of what we want to talk about. And if we talk through this, the education piece that we're going to have as kind of a theme throughout is, again, that focus on individual users. So one thing that we have done at Tableau in in a couple of different groups, but specifically in the organization that I'm in, which is our education team, education and certification, is we developed personas. So we did look at individuals, but we looked at individuals that represented collections of individuals. So we said, okay, if someone is going to be an analyst within their organization, what do they need to know? What are the tasks that are going to be involved? And we developed a persona that drilled down into all those tasks. And then we said, okay, now, if this is what they're going to need to do as a result of using this product, or just what do they need to do in general within their job, now we go and we tie that back. So it all starts with the outcome. I mean, we might say there's a current state too. The current state is they're assigned to be an analyst. The future state is that they need to be doing these things and be successful. So how do we get them there? And we do this for each and every class that we offer. We do it for our free content. We're looking at the individuals and trying to take them, but it all starts with, let's look at that individual person that then can represent. And what's interesting is that, on our team, we've done this with so many different personas, and we did it as an exercise to find out who could possibly ever want to use Tableau. We even said, here are the people that don't want to use Tableau. What would we need to do to get them there? That was not a very popular class that we tried to deploy. No one couldn't convince them, apparently. But we did this because we wanted to understand the scope of our potential community, and then we knew where to prioritize. So we made sure that we focused on the people that were most likely to be engaged, that would most likely need to have a strategy like this. So I'm thinking about, I'm sharing this within Tableau and within that use case, but that's something that we thought really critically about. Every time we build a program, it's all about that individual first. The curated media component was important in that it's a reference to how people learn. So not just what they need to do, but how are they actually going to be able to consume this content. So there are delivery mechanisms that you need to be considerate about. There's learning styles that you need to be considerate about. And that's why you see so much educational content coming from Tableau as well, because we want you to be able to have that just-in-time reference learning through our on-demand videos, and the ability within within just a quick search that you can tap into the community at any time. But then we also take the approach of our virtual content. Has anyone done the one, like they're usually on Tuesdays and Wednesdays, 1 hour long, the free kind of instructor-led webinar trainings? Has anyone done that? Yeah, awesome. I'm so excited that we still do those today, because I was a part of a project that we started so long ago, and I can't believe that we still get to do instructor-led training like that for free every single week in multiple time zones, multiple languages. It's indicative of the passion that Tableau has for enablement. But we also have our in-person opportunities that we do, and things like this conference, where you get to come and be face-to-face. I'm a learner that, if left to my own devices, I'll probably just figure it out and fail, and potentially fail a lot. If you force me to go into a classroom, I'm not going to like the idea of it. Ironically, as a teacher, I didn't used to like the concept of sitting in a room and being forced to pay attention. But I know that it allows me to focus, and I am a learner that needs to be held accountable in the room. And I thrive off the energy of others, so when I'm in a collaborative, in-person environment, it worked for me. But we want to give you options. So if you think about your strategy around education, we want to make sure that you're also thinking about this curated media option and how people might be able to learn. Accessibility is key as well, so you want to make sure that it's clearly accessible in all of those methods as well, whether it's in person or on demand too. So the skills development, the way that we classify this is we want to make sure that it's about application. So one of the things that I love about some of our most successful customers is that they have an ongoing opportunity for collaboration, where you take however you learn, however anybody has learned. Maybe all you did was download and you experimented and you figured out what you need to do in Tableau, and that's awesome, or you have people who went to a classroom, but providing the opportunity to bring people together to develop skills as a group and sharing their experiences, that has been tremendously effective. So providing collaborative environments where people can feed off of each other and their existing knowledge, workshops, any sort of either in-person or virtual community that you can provide is going to be incredibly impactful. And ongoing is so, so key. I have stories and stories of how excited people were to be able to start using Tableau, and then they maybe came to a conference and they were so happy because when they went back, they felt excited, they made so many new contacts, they felt they had so many new resources now. But then when they went back, maybe the excitement dies down and you go back to normal life. And without giving an ongoing opportunity to revisit that same kind of passion and excitement, without staying connected, it sort of falls away. So when we are thinking about our successful customers and what they're doing within education, it's also providing an ongoing cadence, a regular schedule, even an expected schedule, something that's very clearly communicated that says you can expect that every Thursday we will have a small or large, however it is, but some sort of reminder of what we're doing and why we're doing it, and a knowledge sharing opportunity. Okay. So enablement strategy, we have some other details, and Ashley and I have put together some additional, more detailed content that we will be sharing after our session. So, and it'll be open for folks who weren't here as well, around a little bit more detail in what a specific enablement strategy might look like, and how we've seen successful customers do it. It gets into some pretty detailed options there around different delivery mechanisms, virtual comparisons of the value of virtual training versus instructor-led, some also examples of strategies. But we wanted to keep this conversation a little bit more about the principles and get you thinking about how this might apply. The important key here, though, is thinking about being focused on providing opportunities that allow individuals to learn at their learning preference. So with that individual focus, we're going to look at that, one of the other pieces to our kind of spoke, our wheel of execution strategy. And we want to talk about being able to empower people to be evangelists. So Ashley, I mean, you've done this, I'll let you just talk about, I mean, she's her own evangelist as a customer and then partner, and then now she's helping to share this with others.
Oh, well, I am, but it started off with you. So I'll tell you a little bit about my customer story because I see several of my customers here. You've probably heard this story, actually. So in September of 2011, I went to advanced desktop training. It's now called Tableau Desktop 2 in DC. And I went with my boss, and she was our instructor. And we learned so much. One of the things we learned was how many things we'd been doing wrong, which is super important. We didn't do them wrong anymore.
Sorry.
No, thank you, thank you. We were able to save 12,000 man-hours a year for our company in 6 months because we learned what we needed to do to succeed. Then I've trained hundreds of people since then, and we both have books. So when you invest in the right education strategy, not only are you multiplying the success in your organization in ways you cannot imagine right now. You have no idea what will happen to the people in your organization when you send them to training. Why? Because you haven't done it before. It's a big leap, but you need to do it. You will transform your organization and individuals. I never thought I would write a book about software. I thought I would write a trashy romance novel. Honest to God. Jude Devereaux, my homegirl, right? You can do amazing things when you help someone learn the skills they need to succeed. And you can measure it. That's a big thing too. Measuring success, develop the right enablement plan, you can measure the results. You can save a lot of money. We saved 12,000 man hours with one project. Just one. We have a customer who saved $250 million a year with a dashboard. The possibilities are endless, which brings me to evangelism. So, who here knows what an evangelist is? Who here is an evangelist? Katie is. Who here is an evangelist? Oh, Carl's a great evangelist. We are. We're not like religious people wearing robes and sandals, singing Hare Krishna. That's not what we're doing. We're talking about data. Data evangelism is actually really fun. And it's very, very, very impactful. But it's actually a very sophisticated game of show and tell. So when I was training one day, I made a bad joke about SAS. I haven't done it again. I learned my lesson. But what I learned was that the power of evangelism is very, very strong. And if you have an organization with a lot of tools or a lot of people who are scared of change, which is every organization, you need articulate and influential evangelists. And those people are marketers, right? Because an evangelist is spreading the good news. And Molly mentioned the iPhone. The iPhone is a great success story of evangelism. Did anyone here have one? I did. You really couldn't, bless you, you really couldn't do that much with it either. Email was kind of kludgy. The App Store didn't really exist yet. You could listen to music. And you could take a couple pictures, no videos. But now I bet half the room has an iPhone. My mom has one, so that's a sign of how many iPhones there are. Who here has an iPhone? Don't, no. I'm not phone shaming you if you don't have one, really. Sometimes I want to throw mine out the car window, but I don't, because I need it. Because my life now depends on it very, very strongly. And you were actually part of Apple's strategy. So when people started talking about the iPhone, flip phones were king, right? Everyone had a flip phone. I had a Motorola V600. I had like saved up and conned my parents into buying it on eBay for my birthday. It was a nice phone. And then the iPhone came out and I was like, hold on. I can type. I don't have to use my thumbs to text message anymore. I never knew that that was such a pain. I never knew how great it would be to be able to take pictures with my phone. All the things that we never knew that we would want to do with one device, Steve Jobs gave to us. He said, oh, look, you might like to do this. And we all became evangelists. And now we and my mom and mother-in-law all have iPhones because of early evangelists. And actually, evangelizing analytics is very similar. Like, your VP might not know how great it would be to have 10 metrics in the same dashboard that's visual. It's not crosstabs until you show him or her what can happen. You have to show people how their lives can change. So evangelists don't just happen. You actually do need a strategy for developing evangelists. And every early adopter is not an evangelist. But an evangelist is someone who's a really good communicator. They can tell a story. It may be as simple as, oh, look what I did. Is this similar to what you were trying to do? Oh, it is? Well, I can help you get started if you want. You might save some time, you never know. I worked with a lady at Home Depot who spent 4 hours one night trying to create a data extract. It was like 11 o'clock at night, too. Late night. She didn't want to admit that she didn't know how to do it. 4 hours is a lot of time and a lot of money. We could have saved that if we had gotten to her with the right type of evangelism. It's really critical to your change management strategy. And when you have your mission and vision and you have your strategy for success, you need to identify the right types of evangelists because they're going to help others change their behaviors. Not only their behaviors, but their expectations for what success is. And you need people who are really good at reading other people, that's very important. And people who are disciplined and people who will share the right message. And I have a good customer story for you in a moment that tells you what the wrong message is. This is the best outfit ever. I don't know if he's trying to signal his mothership to beam him up or what, but Steve Martin, great evangelist. And where do you find them? They're not necessarily the earliest adopters. And your most powerful evangelists can come from a place you don't expect. Your most powerful evangelists might be the people who are using the tool you are trying to get rid of. Let's say that you have another BI tool. Let's just call it a tabular reporting tool. There likely are people in your IT and business organization who have become very powerful by mastering this tool. They have a lot of influence. They also know how to get things done in your organization. And they have the most to lose if you succeed with Tableau. Are they your enemies or your adversaries? No. They're your next evangelists because they have great reach. And if you show them and persuade them how much better their lives and your company will be by using Tableau or anything else, you're probably not going to have to find a lot of other evangelists. They might do your job for you. And that's kind of what you want evangelists to do, is you want them to execute your change management strategy for you. All right. So I have a customer story for you. It's actually something that happened to me. And it is a great example of the power of a first impression. I don't know about you, but when I was a kid, my parents were like, honey, when you meet people, you don't have to tell them everything you know. Just smile and nod and wait your turn to talk. And I unfortunately worked with someone who did not hear that lesson as a child, or maybe he did and he didn't act on it. It does take time. It took me about 30 years. And one day he got a hold of Tableau Desktop and he created a dashboard. Now, I'm not going to call it a good dashboard. I'm not going to call it a bad dashboard. He had very good intentions, but he went to talk to one of our C-level executives. I don't know what happened in the conversation, but when I talked to the C-level executive 6 months later, he said, until you got here, I hated Tableau. And I was kind of like trying to find an exit from the conversation in the room. I was like, oh, you hated Tableau, huh? I almost fell off the stage. Thank you. Hate, strong feeling. My colleague, Bob, had created this dashboard. And he had taken it to this man, and he said, look, I loaded all of our data in one dashboard. And this guy looked at him and said, how much time did you waste on that? Bob was like, oh, it took me 2 days. 2 days. Do you know that it's wrong? Bob said, no, it's not. Because I wrote the query myself. C-level is like, it's wrong. Don't show this to anyone else. This is awful. Go back to your cube and don't come back. Really, it was not a good day for Bob. So I went to talk to Bob and I was like, Bob, what happened? He goes, oh, I queried all the data. I was like, all of it. Did you test it? No. Oh, could it have been wrong? No, because I queried. Like, it was totally wrong. Totally torpedoed 6 months of what could have been phenomenal progress. First impressions last a really long time. Lesson number 1. Lesson number 2, test your data. Please test your data. I use Excel, great tool for testing data. And this was informal evangelism that could have been brilliant formal evangelism. Bob was a great guy, lots of friends, but no one ever listened to anything that he said about Tableau again. It's very sad. Very, very sad. But he liked to help other people, so he would have been a phenomenal evangelist if he would have done a couple things right. So when you're designing your evangelism program, you don't necessarily have to develop a formal plan for test your data, stay on message, don't tell the CDO that he's wrong. All bad moves. So keep these things in mind, because your evangelists are the ones who are going to tell other people what is in your strategy and what's in it for them. And you want them to say and do the right things.
So tying the importance of evangelism, right? So we want to make sure that we have the right evangelists, but then what their message is and how they're going out, I mean, we want that to also be supportive of the holistic strategy. And that the third piece we want to talk about is the value here. So the strategic value is often relative. It is relative. And oftentimes those of us who are really passionate about something, we're really excited and we see so much value in it, it enriches our lives. And it's hard because we don't understand why other people don't really get it right away. I have a really passionate love of The Simpsons as a cartoon, specifically seasons 1 through 11. And it's not uncommon for me to subtly slip some reference or some story or some quote into conversation on a regular basis. So the lesson that I learned, though, is that not everyone thinks that that's funny. Not everyone gets it. And even though I'm so excited about it, my enthusiasm for it doesn't automatically make other people see the value.
I had no idea you were a Simpsons fan.
Oh.
None.
Well, clearly,
maybe I didn't get the joke.
She doesn't watch the show, so you. Yeah. So the lesson that I learned here is that if I want people to see the value in what I'm doing, it can't be about me and how excited I am. And I certainly can't just send them off to go watch it on TV and hope that they find the right episode and that they also get the context. And maybe they are going to just understand that this is just something so important and it will provide and enrich their lives. What I learned also, though, is that people don't really like to be forced when I come over to their house with a series of my favorite DVDs and say, okay, we're going to watch this episode and then this one, and then force them to try to see the value. I've only done that once and it failed, so I learned my lesson, and I'm not here to tell you about it, but if you do need an episode to watch, to get into The Simpsons, I got it. But the thing that I learned, not just about that, but also about anything that I'm really excited and passionate about that I see value in or that I've received value from, is that first I have to connect and say, how is that other person going to understand the value it's provided me, and how am I going to help them connect to whatever possible perceived value they may receive? So let's talk a little bit about that. And this quote from Bertrand Russell about there can be no value in the whole unless there's value in the parts. We're thinking about this idea of individual, so this is hitting on that theme as well. But the complete quote actually starts with the habit of looking to the future and thinking that the whole meaning of the present lies in what it will bring forth is a pernicious one or harmful one. So if we're looking out at the future and saying, okay, this is going to be the goal. This is so great, and everything that happens in the future is going to make and validate what we're doing now. And it doesn't really matter what we do now as long as we can get there. That's what this is indicating, and it is really important because the quote actually goes on to say, life is not to be conceived on the analogy of a melodrama in which the hero and heroine go through incredible misfortunes for which they're compensated by a happy ending. So if we're thinking about anyone who's trying to learn Tableau, if we say, okay, well, there's all these resources, there's so much stuff out there, there's so much learning, and you can just go and you can explore and you can find what's valuable or what's helpful for you. It's lovely that Tableau offers all these options, and for someone like myself, and I hope for others in here, you might be technically curious enough to continue to push through and find that value, and you might have a quick win where you get immediate value, a return on that time and that effort. So it encourages you to go to the next step and the next step. But if someone either doesn't see the value right away or gets to a point of frustration, Are they going to be intellectually curious enough to push past it on their own? Or is there a way to make sure that we promote value at the beginning, get them on a good cadence or in a good path, and then help to promote those wins, those incremental valuable wins to continue pushing them forward? So a value strategy, it has to promote on the emphasis, right? This has to be perceived as important. So we're thinking that it's so important for us. And if I as a manager, I had a team of product managers at Tableau. And if I found that a project was really important, I would get to assign it to them. And I got to tell them to do it. And if they delayed on it or if they procrastinated and it didn't happen, if it was usually because I didn't clearly articulate the importance. So we think about value in terms of these three metrics, and obviously there's a lot of relevance here, or a lot of interpretation and opportunity to take it to different levels. But we want to think about the standards. So there's a trade-off often about, you can either spend time or you can spend money or you can get quality. I only put that up there as a reminder because these are trade-offs to be considered. But just think about the standards for value. What would be valuable for you, for your organization, for the individual? And then not only are you going to define it, but you also have to make sure it's clearly articulated and that it's also bought in. So spending time to define that and being transparent about what this means for the organization is going to be very key. Also think about the usefulness, and the usefulness is about that application and the ability for people to actually put this into play. If it's valuable for them, it will also hopefully tie into the value for the organization. So everyone's kind of bought into that. So accountability is a tricky one, and I get a lot of mixed responses when I talk about holding people accountable, and I don't want it to be something that's negative. I think about the opportunities that I have when I've asked coaches or mentors to hold me accountable to something, and it pushes me towards a goal. So I think about people that I've met at conference that have come here with specific tasks where someone, maybe we're told, you are going to leave this conference, and when you get back to your desk, you're going to have to do something. Does anyone here have a specific goal that they have to accomplish either here or immediately when they get back to work? Anybody? Only a couple? Oh, that's so nice. Oh, you guys get to just absorb. I love that. Oh, it's so good. And I think that that's so wonderful when you can come and you can learn and not have to be held accountable necessarily. I wonder if you're holding yourself accountable to something, that you're challenging yourself to learn something new or network with new people. But as long as you have a goal for this, it will enrich your experience. And if you hold yourself accountable to something, that you can also acknowledge your achievement. So what we see a lot is we want to do these knowledge checks. We want to do things on a cadence. We talk about product proficiency. We talk about our certification program, not because we want to force people to take a test, and not because we want to punish them when they're not meeting some standard. We want to help people to work towards a goal and provide a motivation and confirmation of achievement once they get there, and then continue to push to the next piece. So the perception of value, while it's really, it is a broad concept, but something that is valuable often requires a little bit of energy and time to put into it. So thinking about your strategy around value and promotion and communication is going to be really, really key. Some of our best customers here have thought about the deliverable, the outcome, and then they actually had some sort of accountability to it. So it wasn't just, you have a goal for when you go to conference, and we want to see this when you get back. Our customers actually reach out and say, okay, did you achieve your goal? What does that mean for us now? What's the next step? So inviting accountability doesn't have to be a negative experience. It could actually be a motivational one. So the lesson, message, the thing that we want to leave you with today, hopefully this is a start of a conversation. We certainly want to engage. Ashley said that she doesn't drink wine much.
Except today.
Oh, today. Okay, great.
Yeah.
So we have a party tonight. If you see us, we want to keep this conversation going, and we invite to be able to talk about and brainstorm how a strategy around empowering people within your organization could be successful. But the lesson that we want you to walk away with from this session really is that organizational success is going to hinge on the productive and empowered individuals that make up your organization.
Each of you.
So the shared theme of most of the most successful customers that have been using Tableau is that they've focused on creating a holistic strategy, and it focuses on those that are responsible for the deliverables. So I mentioned we want to hear from you. Any feedback is going to be encouraged. We do have a few minutes for questions. So if you have questions or anything that we can talk about in the next few minutes, that's great. We can also take feedback in the form of our conference survey. Hopefully you've seen in other sessions that you've been able to complete these. So please go to your app and make sure that you're completing that component for this session. But we wanted to ask and see if there's any specific or any questions or general questions that you guys had. We'll do our best to...
Carl does.
Oh, awesome.
What's your question, Carl?
All over it.
We did not plant this question, by the way.
Well, now they're going to think we planted it. Okay.
You mentioned training for the team members, setting off the training. Sometimes it's more economical to bring someone in for a group. Do you find that training just as effective or not?
Okay, so the question is, we mentioned that sending someone off to training can often be really helpful, but another option would be to bring somebody in to the organization and bring a collection of internal folks with maybe an external person. So I think either is great, and that's the beauty of, I love the beauty of your question, which is, which is better? Well, it's going to depend on what works. Both can be good. In times where people have come to a public class, for example, so as Ashley mentioned, I used to get to teach this, and it can be really awkward because you have a collection of up to 20 people coming to a public forum, and especially when they're brand new to the tool, it can be very daunting. And so you come into a room of strangers, and here you are, and you're going to embark on a new journey of learning. There's something about if people are uncomfortable, there's actually something beautiful about once they get it because they feel like they're more dedicated to the outcome. But really, it's an opportunity, if you are so inclined, to collaborate with people outside of your organization and learn about what you might not know and what might be beyond. So it's an opportunity to discuss, collaborate, and take your experiences and then translate that. So I think there's a huge value in that, and a strategy that I think could also be really successful that we've seen at a couple of our longtime customers is they send a couple people as kind of first points. They've identified their evangelists. They send a couple people to go to a public class, also because it's cheaper. Let's be real about the investment piece, right? So you can go to do that, and then they kind of learn what else is out there. They come back, and you've identified these as evangelists, and they are going to be thinking about, okay, now how do we translate that for our organization? And then later, as you get more enthusiasm, you've identified more people that, again, might be those next level evangelists, you bring someone in that talks about that. And certainly the external person who can come in and help will have those stories and be able to open up the doors as well. But the collaboration between peers is very successful in that environment. Thanks, Carl. Yeah.
Outside of so our company doesn't have a central insights department or anything. So what parts of the organization or what departments have you seen kind of lead the formulation of an analytics strategy?
All of them.
Can you repeat the question?
Yeah, it's a really good question. So, and what's your name?
Travis.
Travis. Travis said that his company doesn't have a central insights organization. So he's curious what groups within an enterprise typically lead the way with analytics. And I would say finance, marketing, HR, supply chain, business intelligence, if you have that sort of function. And then operations. So really almost every group within a business organization can and has created a beautiful path. Actually, The person who gave me the joke with which I started is from one of our largest customers and one of the biggest companies in the world, and from HR. So sometimes the most unlikely group, like we have a customer here in supply chain, and they're like, hey, we're gonna be the best. We want to be the best before anyone else. We're gonna show them how to do it. It really depends on the courage of your leaders. So any group that has a leader who can form a vision and a strategy and has the courage to execute can set a beautiful example for everyone and change your organization from top down.
And I think what's key, oh, sorry, just real quick. So I think what's key about that too is that, you might have the initial people that are, initial group that's driving it. But then what is going to be important is to take and have a collaborative effort to go beyond that, right? Because you want to make sure that one strategy that works for one group might be a great starting point to get, to serve as an example, and then how do you collectively identify how to translate that for other groups?
Yeah, collaboration is key.
Yeah.
As you heard from Francois this morning, we have another colleague who's presenting, and he actually has a Vanilla Ice quote. It says, stop, collaborate, and listen. And it's actually really, really important. I know this lady here in the second row had a question too.
Oh, yeah.
Or fourth row. Madam in the awesome jacket.
Thank you. My question was more inclined to security of the data during deployment. How do you get to explain to management who have no background in information security during deployment that their data will be safe on time?
Well, that is why you have a data governance strategy. And you use your data governance strategy to inform the data security practices that you put in place and the conversations that you have with your executives. And if you are in a financial services organization, everyone will know what your data governance strategy is because they actually put it into practice every day, maybe without even knowing it. So that's something that you will have to determine for your organization. But I highly suggest that you start with data governance, because if someone releases the wrong data, it can kill the adoption of Tableau in your organization. So that's a big thing to answer very early on, and then make sure everyone knows how to do it properly.
And so just to add to that too, that is the education part of it, or just even the knowledge, that having someone, a mentor, or just being able to be informed about the implications is going to be huge. Mm-hmm. Because I heard of there was an organization that I was teaching at, and their IT group almost shut down Tableau entirely because there was one person who accidentally created a package workbook using an Excel file. And we know that if you can unpackage the workbook, and it used to be that the Excel file was there at row level. And even though what was included in the visualizations in the workbook did not have row level detail or private information, there were a couple savvy people that actually found that, and the individual was absolutely innocently trying to make sure that that they could bubble up the information. The view only had a high level kind of annual trend of salary spend.
Oh. Just so then everyone knew what everyone else made, right?
Right.
Oh, that's not good. But these are things that you can manage very easily. And if this is of interest to you, might I recommend Tableau Server Administration Training. Really, really, really good investment.
Or
$1,400, come on.
But that's the key, to convince management and also understand, how do we educate ourselves so that we know how to educate others to be safe and secure? Because it's not that people are purposefully trying to, expose every individual in their organization's salary, but just innocent mistakes can happen like that.
Yes.
So I'd love to talk to you more about it too, if we have time. Okay,
Sure.
so probably one more question. Great. Congratulations.
And then we looked in our group and say, well, the next application was for a group of 2,000 people, your salespeople. And in talking to upper management, they said, boy, stuff looks great, access an iPad, iPhone, but time out. We can't afford that amount. How do you strategize about, how do you convince them about cost? How do you move that forward? Because it's a barrier, obviously.
So first off, congrats again on your successful first rollout and to positive feedback, which is excellent. And now that you're thinking about sending, the next phase to the now 2,000 more people, but we have to think about justification of the investment. And justification of the license investment or education or both?
No, it's the license.
The license.
Oh, that's a good question. There's actually a lot of flexibility, and so I would say start with a pilot and talk to your account manager, because we have some very flexible trial options. So when I was a customer, we didn't actually have money to buy Tableau Server. We sort of had to beg, borrow, and steal, and in order to get, sad but true, in order to get it, we had to go show people who had money how they would benefit from it. And then they were like, oh, that's a great dashboard, and it's only $100 grand. And I was like, yeah, 100 grand payable to me. I'm gonna send it to my friendly Tableau account manager. But that's what we did, and that's the reality of what a lot of people do. So develop your test case, create success metrics. If you can tell people who have money, hey, if you give me 100 grand, then your 2,000 salespeople are going to spend an hour less a day, which adds up to 20 hours a month doing stuff on their computer. So that's 20 hours a month that they can be selling to your customers or getting their car washed or something. But just find what that financial value is and then steward it.
And the last thing that we'll touch on for that question, because I think it's a real one of thinking about how do we validate that, right? So one of the things that we've seen really be successful is either you take that pilot, you work with sales rep, they'll have resources, but leverage the educational options, leverage what we have on the website, leverage the resources that your sales rep will provide to make sure that the individuals that are helping to maybe prove out the point are informed. Because if you are saying we're going to try this pilot and you're not really fully dedicating into the process of evaluation, then it's not going to be successful.
Yeah.
And so we have seen people who will bring pre-sales efforts in, consultants, they leverage whatever training. We've had people come to conference, if you haven't, actually purchased yet, or, to trainings and education options, but just think through that strategy. And then in addition, when you're talking about what this proposal looks like, think beyond the license purchase and about how the empowerment and enablement will work out as well, because you want to make sure that you can say, all right, as a result of this purchase, here is our education plan and the opportunity that we will make sure to ensure that these things don't become wheezy on the shelf, but they actually get used. So think beyond the purchase as well.
And make your messaging in your organization very simple and clear, because introducing a new platform is like playing a game of telephone. Seriously. People could get from, oh, a Tableau dashboard, how nice, to, oh my God, we're getting rid of our ERP in like 2 seconds. So be very careful about how you message it. I know you laugh, but these things happen.
So we are at time, and thank you so much for the time. We will be around. Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a great conference. Hope to see people tonight. Be safe, have fun, learn Tableau. Cheers.